In the quiet hours before dawn, while the lights of Buckingham Palace remained steady against the London sky and the machinery of the British monarchy prepared for another carefully controlled day, reports began emerging from across the Atlantic that something inside the world of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was no longer holding together. But what if the story the world believed for years was only the beginning of something far more complicated? And if that is true, what happens when even a prince begins questioning his own choices? For months, public attention had been fixed on media deals, polished appearances, lifestyle branding, and carefully staged moments designed to reinforce the image of unity, ambition, and reinvention. Yet behind that carefully managed image, insiders now suggest that Prince Harry had begun moving differently, speaking differently, and perhaps most importantly, thinking differently. Because according to several reports circulating through royal commentary circles, the Duke of Sussex had quietly started distancing himself not only from the commercial machinery built around the Sussex name, but from the emotional narrative that had defined his life since 2017. And when a man who once walked away from a kingdom begins walking away from his own story, the real question becomes, what exactly changed? Those close to California's elite social circles claim that by late spring, Prince Harry was no longer appearing consistently beside Meghan Markle during private gatherings, investor dinners, or strategic branding conversations. And while public schedules can always be explained away with professional commitments, private patterns are much harder to disguise, especially when staff begin noticing extended absences, separate transportation arrangements, and late-night calls placed to contacts, thousands of miles away in Britain. Now ask yourself this: if everything inside a marriage was strong, stable, and moving forward, why would those calls suddenly begin now? What makes this story even more compelling is not simply physical distance, but the emotional symbolism that allegedly accompanied it, because according to the transcript provided, observers reportedly noticed that Prince Harry was seen without the wedding band that had become one of the most recognizable symbols of his post-royal identity. A detail that may appear small to outsiders, but inside the world of royal symbolism, personal gestures often speak louder than official statements. The absence of a ring is never just jewelry. The absence of a ring can become a message. And if that message was intentional, then who exactly was meant to hear it? The public, the palace, or someone much closer? At the same time, reports suggest that Prince Harry had begun privately revisiting decisions made nearly a decade earlier, particularly the accelerated period during which his relationship with Meghan Markle moved from private romance to public engagement, royal wedding, and constitutional integration into one of the oldest institutions on earth. What once felt like courage may now, according to palace commentators, feel more like unfinished questions, and when unfinished questions begin colliding with institutional memory, the consequences can become deeply personal. Inside royal circles, the names that reportedly keep resurfacing are impossible to ignore. King Charles III, Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales. Not because any of these figures have spoken publicly, but because some analysts believe that the caution shown by senior members of the royal family during the early Sussex years may now be viewed in a completely different light. Was it resistance? Was it tradition? Or was it something else entirely? Institutional instinct? According to sources referenced in your transcript, Prince Harry allegedly began seeking clarity through private legal consultations, long-distance communications, and what some insiders describe as forensic conversations about decisions made during the original vetting process before the 2018 royal wedding. None of these claims have been officially confirmed, and as always, reports remain speculative, but speculation becomes powerful when behavior begins matching the rumors. And if those conversations truly happened, why would Prince Harry be looking backward instead of forward? Meanwhile, across Britain, public fascination continues growing around the role of Prince William, the future king whose leadership image has only strengthened during recent years, particularly alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales, whose return to public confidence has reinforced stability within the royal family. The contrast has not gone unnoticed. On one side, a future king projecting discipline, continuity, and constitutional responsibility. On the other, a prince living thousands of miles away, reportedly navigating uncertainty, isolation, and deeply personal reflection. But does blood eventually pull harder than pride? Some palace commentators now believe that if reconciliation were ever to happen, the first true bridge would not be built through public interviews, documentaries, or media statements, but through something far more difficult: humility. Because for Prince Harry, reconnecting with Prince William would not simply mean speaking to a brother. It would mean facing the man who may one day become king, the man whose warnings were once dismissed, the man whose silence may now carry more power than any speech ever could. And then there is King Charles III, a monarch balancing legacy, family, public duty, and the future of the crown, because if private conversations are truly happening behind closed palace doors, then every word matters, every document matters, and every decision carries consequences far beyond personal relationships. The monarchy survives not because it avoids crisis, but because it absorbs crisis and transforms it into continuity. The question now is whether Prince Harry still believes he belongs inside that continuity, or whether he is only now beginning to understand what he walked away from. And just when it seemed the story was about distance, regret, and private reflection, another layer began emerging, one that may completely redefine how this royal drama is understood, because the next development does not focus on California, media contracts, or public image at all. The next development focuses on confidential conversations, palace records, and one name that reportedly refuses to disappear from every private discussion in London: Prince William. And what happened next changed everything. As the silence surrounding Prince Harry continued to deepen and the absence of public appearances with Meghan Markle became harder for royal observers to ignore, a very different story was reportedly unfolding far from California, inside the disciplined and heavily protected inner corridors of Buckingham Palace, where conversations are rarely emotional, almost never impulsive, and always connected to one question above everything else: what protects the future of the monarchy? But what happens when that question suddenly includes the name of a prince who once walked away from the institution entirely? According to multiple royal commentators and Palace Watch reports, the first signs that something serious was developing did not come through media leaks, public statements, or carefully timed press releases, but through quiet logistical movements involving legal advisors, former royal aides, and private scheduling changes connected to Prince Harry. Some believe these movements suggest that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, had begun seeking something far more valuable than public sympathy. Because after years of defending choices made in the name of love, freedom, and modern independence, Prince Harry may now be searching for something far harder to recover: clarity. And that is where the story takes an even more fascinating turn, because according to reports circulating among palace insiders, the name that reportedly appeared most often in these private discussions was not immediately King Charles III, and it was not directly tied to Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. Instead, the name repeatedly surfacing was Prince William, the future king, the brother whose relationship with Prince Harry has been defined by loyalty, tension, distance, and years of unresolved emotional conflict. Now ask yourself this: if Prince Harry truly wanted nothing to do with royal life, why would Prince William suddenly become the most important person in the conversation? What makes Prince William's position so powerful is not simply blood, legacy, or succession, but institutional memory, because Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has spent years standing at the center of one of the most complex transitions in modern royal history, balancing public duty beside Catherine, Princess of Wales, supporting King Charles III, and quietly preparing for the moment when the crown eventually passes forward. While public headlines focused on interviews, memoirs, documentaries, and accusations, Prince William remained where institutions often place their strongest figures: silent, patient, and impossible to ignore. Sources close to royal commentary circles now suggest that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, may have initiated indirect communication through trusted intermediaries, not for publicity, not for media rehabilitation, and not for another emotional reconciliation documentary, but for something far more serious: access to institutional records, personal timelines, and internal context surrounding decisions made during the earliest stages of Meghan Markle's integration into the royal family. None of these reports have been independently confirmed, and as always, reports should be treated carefully, yet the consistency of these discussions has captured enormous attention. And if Prince Harry is truly asking questions now, why were those questions not asked years earlier? For Prince William, the future king, this situation carries extraordinary emotional complexity because Prince William is not only the brother who shared childhood trauma with Prince Harry after the loss of Diana, Princess of Wales, but also the constitutional figure whose first loyalty must always remain with the monarchy itself. That means any conversation involving Prince Harry is no longer just about family. Any conversation involving Prince William now becomes about national symbolism, succession, institutional trust, and the long-term stability of the crown. Would you forgive family if forgiveness carried constitutional consequences? Meanwhile, as Prince William's name continues dominating insider discussions, the public image of Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become even more significant because Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, represents something the modern monarchy values deeply: stability under pressure. Every appearance by Catherine, Princess of Wales, every carefully measured engagement, every interaction with the public reinforces an image of discipline, emotional intelligence, and continuity. And in moments of royal uncertainty, continuity often becomes more powerful than charisma. Royal observers have noted that Prince Harry's increasing distance from the California media machine appears to be happening at exactly the same time that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, continue strengthening public trust inside Britain and across the Commonwealth. That contrast has created a fascinating psychological tension for audiences worldwide, because while one brother appears to be moving deeper into private uncertainty, the other brother appears to be moving steadily toward destiny. But is destiny something inherited or something earned through sacrifice? At the same time, reports suggest that Meghan Markle continues moving forward with branding initiatives, commercial partnerships, and carefully managed public positioning in California. Yet some analysts believe the noticeable absence of Prince Harry from those strategic appearances may signal a much deeper internal shift. If true, the implications go far beyond a celebrity marriage, because the Sussex brand was never built around one individual. The Sussex brand was built around unity, loyalty, and the emotional power of a shared narrative. So what happens when one half of that narrative begins quietly stepping out of frame? And perhaps the most intriguing development involves late-night communication patterns reportedly linked to London time zones, because according to commentators following the story closely, Prince Harry's private schedule appears increasingly aligned with Britain rather than California. Legal consultations, historical reviews, personal outreach, institutional questions. Each development may be innocent on its own. Yet when those patterns begin connecting to the names of Prince William, King Charles III, and trusted former palace advisors, even the smallest details begin carrying extraordinary weight. For King Charles III, every development involving Prince Harry carries both emotional and constitutional significance, because King Charles III is not simply a father navigating family conflict. King Charles III is a monarch whose legacy will be measured by whether the institution remains stronger than the crises surrounding it. That means every private message, every legal inquiry, every quiet request for access to old records becomes part of a much larger story, one involving not only Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and Prince William, but the future identity of the British monarchy itself. And just when it seemed Prince Harry's search for answers was focused only on emotional regret, family wounds, and lost trust, a new layer reportedly began emerging from inside legal circles in London, one that may completely redefine this royal drama, because the next conversations are no longer about feelings, reconciliation, or private apologies. The next conversations are reportedly about documents, constitutional implications, and whether choices made nearly a decade ago could still carry consequences today. And when Prince Harry heard what came next, even insiders say the silence became impossible to ignore. As discussions inside Buckingham Palace reportedly shifted from emotional reconciliation to something far more structured and consequential, a new phase of this unfolding royal drama began to take shape, one that no longer revolved around interviews, media narratives, or personal grievances, but instead focused on documents, timelines, and the kind of institutional scrutiny that the British monarchy rarely exposes to public view. And when conversations move from feelings to files, the entire story changes. So the question becomes, what exactly was found and why did it matter so much now? According to multiple royal commentators and carefully worded insider claims, the focus of recent private inquiries involving Prince Harry has reportedly turned toward the original vetting period that preceded the 2018 royal wedding, a phase that involved coordination between palace officials, legal advisors, and British security services tasked with ensuring that anyone entering the royal family met not only personal expectations, but constitutional standards. For years, that process remained largely invisible to the public. Yet now, nearly a decade later, the same process is being quietly revisited. And if that process is being revisited, then something within it must feel incomplete. What makes this development even more intense is the reported suggestion that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, is no longer looking for reassurance, but for verification, because according to analysts following the situation, Prince Harry may have begun questioning whether the speed and intensity of his own decisions in 2017 influenced how deeply those checks were allowed to go. That possibility introduces a powerful layer of internal conflict, because it suggests that Prince Harry is not only examining external circumstances, but also confronting his own role in shaping them. Now ask yourself this: how difficult is it for anyone, especially someone born into global visibility, to accept that personal choices may have limited access to the full truth? At the center of these quiet but significant developments is once again Prince William, the future king whose position now places Prince William at the intersection of family loyalty and institutional responsibility. Because any review of past decisions involving Meghan Markle and the Sussex entry into the royal family inevitably touches the authority structure that Prince William is preparing to inherit. Prince William is not simply observing events unfold. Prince William represents the system that must absorb, interpret, and respond to them. Would Prince William prioritize personal reconciliation, or would Prince William prioritize the long-term stability of the monarchy? Sources within royal analysis circles suggest that Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has remained characteristically controlled, offering no public comment while maintaining full engagement with the duties that define his role alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales. Yet insiders believe that silence does not indicate absence. Instead, silence often indicates preparation. Every engagement, every appearance, every strategic movement by Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, reinforces a message that the monarchy remains steady regardless of internal disruption. But beneath that steady surface, how much is actually being evaluated? Meanwhile, attention has also turned toward King Charles III, whose role in this moment is uniquely complex, because King Charles III must balance personal empathy as a father with constitutional discipline as a monarch. Reports suggest that any material being reviewed is handled with extreme caution, not because of secrecy alone, but because the implications of revisiting past royal approvals extend far beyond individual relationships. If decisions made during the Sussex transition period were influenced by incomplete context, then those decisions become part of a larger institutional conversation. And when institutions begin asking questions about their own processes, outcomes can become unpredictable. Adding another layer of complexity is the reported involvement of external legal advisors, because according to several commentators, Prince Harry has allegedly engaged independent legal perspectives separate from California-based operations, potentially to better understand how royal protocols intersect with personal decisions made outside the United Kingdom. This detail matters because it suggests that Prince Harry is no longer relying solely on emotional interpretation, but is actively seeking structured clarity. And when emotional narratives are replaced by legal frameworks, the conclusions often become far more definitive. So what happens if those conclusions contradict everything that was once believed? At the same time, Meghan Markle continues to operate within a public-facing world defined by visibility, branding, and narrative control. Yet the growing separation between public presentation and reported private developments has created a tension that observers find increasingly difficult to ignore. The Duchess of Sussex remains central to the story, yet the story itself appears to be shifting away from shared narrative toward individual trajectories. And if that shift continues, the implications could extend beyond personal identity into the structural future of the Sussex brand itself. One of the most discussed elements among commentators involves the concept of trust, because trust within the royal family is not simply emotional. Trust within the monarchy is procedural, documented, and historically layered, meaning that any perceived gaps or inconsistencies are not treated casually. They are analyzed, contextualized, and recorded. For Prince Harry, the realization that institutional trust operates differently than personal trust may represent one of the most difficult transitions of all. Would anyone truly understand that difference without experiencing it firsthand? As these layers continue unfolding, observers have begun asking whether this moment represents a temporary phase of reflection or the beginning of a much deeper transformation, because Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, now appears to be navigating a space where personal identity, family history, and institutional legacy intersect in ways that cannot be easily separated. Every decision moving forward will likely carry consequences that extend beyond individual relationships and into the long-term perception of the monarchy itself. And just when it seemed that this phase of the story was about reviewing the past, understanding decisions, and quietly reassessing relationships, another development reportedly began taking shape. One that shifts the focus from what happened years ago to what might happen next, because insiders now suggest that the next stage is not about questions anymore. The next stage may be about choices. And once those choices begin unfolding, the entire direction of this royal story could change again. As private reviews reportedly move beyond old timelines, personal recollections, and emotional interpretations, the story surrounding Prince Harry entered what many royal commentators now describe as the most consequential phase yet, because the questions being asked behind closed doors are no longer centered on what happened in the past, but on what happens next if the past changes how the future must be managed. And when a prince begins questioning not only where he has been, but where he belongs, the consequences can reach far beyond family. So let me ask you this: if everything you built your identity around suddenly began shifting beneath your feet, where would you turn first? According to multiple Palace Watch reports, the recent movement surrounding Prince Harry has reportedly become less emotional and far more strategic, with insiders suggesting that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, has quietly begun evaluating not just personal relationships, but long-term positioning, legal protection, public identity, and perhaps even the possibility of redefining how Prince Harry fits into the wider structure of the British monarchy. That alone would be extraordinary, because Prince Harry spent years building a narrative around independence, personal freedom, and life beyond the institution. But what happens when independence begins feeling less like freedom and more like isolation? What makes this stage of the story particularly fascinating is the increasing role of Prince William, because Prince William, the future king, is no longer simply the older brother whose relationship with Prince Harry became strained through years of public tension, private disagreements, and deeply personal wounds. Prince William now represents something much larger. Prince William represents the future authority of the crown, the continuity of the monarchy, and the institutional framework that Prince Harry may now find himself quietly moving back toward. But can two brothers repair years of distance when one brother represents family and the other brother represents the future of the institution itself? Royal commentators suggest that if any meaningful pathway forward exists for Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, that pathway may depend not on public interviews, media rehabilitation campaigns, or carefully produced documentaries, but on private trust, documented accountability, and direct conversations with Prince William, the Prince of Wales. Trust inside the royal family is rarely restored through words alone. Trust inside the monarchy is restored through consistency, discretion, and sacrifice. And if Prince Harry truly understands that now, then every quiet move Prince Harry makes becomes infinitely more significant. At the same time, the public role of Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues to draw enormous attention, because Catherine, Princess of Wales, has emerged not simply as a popular royal figure, but as one of the strongest symbols of institutional stability in modern royal life. Every appearance by Kate Middleton, every carefully measured interaction, every moment of composed leadership beside Prince William reinforces a powerful contrast to the uncertainty currently surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. In a world dominated by headlines, controversy, and rapid narratives, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become the embodiment of patience. And here is the question: when the public sees stability on one side and uncertainty on the other, which story becomes more powerful? Meanwhile, reports suggest that Meghan Markle continues focusing on public ventures, strategic partnerships, and long-term brand positioning in California. Yet some analysts believe the increasingly separate trajectories of Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, may now be impossible to ignore. Publicly, the Sussex identity remains recognizable. Privately, however, commentators suggest that Prince Harry's priorities may be shifting away from image building and toward personal clarity. And when clarity begins replacing loyalty, relationships often enter their most revealing phase. Adding even more intrigue to this unfolding story is the role of King Charles III, because King Charles III now stands at the center of one of the most delicate balancing acts of his reign. King Charles III is not simply managing public expectations. King Charles III is managing legacy, succession, family repair, constitutional continuity, and the long-term credibility of the monarchy itself. Every private conversation involving Prince Harry now potentially carries implications for the future image of the crown. So if Prince Harry were to seek a new understanding with the institution, would King Charles III respond first as a father or first as a king? Royal analysts believe that one of the most important developments may involve the possibility of structured re-engagement, not necessarily a dramatic return to frontline royal duties, but perhaps a carefully managed rebuilding of communication, trust, and constitutional understanding. That possibility remains entirely speculative, and no official confirmation exists. Yet the growing number of reported private contacts has fueled intense discussion. If Prince Harry is quietly rebuilding bridges, then every conversation matters, every document matters, and every choice becomes part of a larger strategy. And perhaps the most revealing shift of all involves Prince Harry's public absence from high-profile commercial moments that once defined the post-royal chapter of Sussex life. Industry observers have noticed that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, appears increasingly removed from the polished promotional machinery that once framed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as a unified global brand. In business, absence can be accidental. In royal storytelling, absence often becomes a message. So what message is Prince Harry sending now? At the same time, Prince William, the future king, appears more visible than ever, balancing constitutional duty beside Catherine, Princess of Wales, strengthening public trust and reinforcing the image of a monarchy prepared for generational transition. That contrast is becoming impossible for audiences to ignore. On one side stands Prince William, the Prince of Wales, moving steadily toward the crown. On the other stands Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, seemingly moving through one of the most introspective periods of his adult life. And when two brothers begin moving in opposite directions, history tends to notice. Some insiders even suggest that Prince Harry's recent consultations may involve not only personal reconciliation, but also a deeper understanding of how succession, titles, public roles, and institutional responsibilities may evolve in the years ahead. That possibility transforms the story from family drama into constitutional relevance, because Prince Harry has always been more than a celebrity figure. Prince Harry remains part of a historical structure whose decisions echo across generations. And just when it seemed that Prince Harry's journey was about reflection, accountability, and quietly rebuilding trust, reports now suggest that the next development may be the most emotionally powerful of all. Because the next phase reportedly does not involve lawyers, advisors, or palace records, the next phase may involve something far more difficult. The next phase may involve one private conversation between Prince Harry and Prince William, a conversation that some believe could reshape not only two lives, but the future of the entire royal family. And what was allegedly said during that conversation may change everything. As whispers of a possible private conversation between Prince Harry and Prince William continued spreading through royal commentary circles, the atmosphere surrounding this extraordinary story reportedly changed once again. Because for the first time in years, the conversation was no longer centered on media contracts, public accusations, memoirs, interviews, or California reinvention. Instead, the conversation had returned to something much older, much deeper, and far more powerful: family, legacy, and the future of the British monarchy itself. But here's the question that now captures global attention. when two brothers separated by pain, pride, and public history finally begin talking again, what truths are impossible to avoid? According to palace commentators and carefully framed insider reports, the alleged contact between Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and Prince William, the future king, was not described as emotional, dramatic, or openly reconciliatory. Instead, reports suggest that the tone was measured, controlled, and intensely private, exactly the kind of conversation one would expect when decades of shared history meet years of unresolved tension. And perhaps that detail matters more than anything else, because sometimes the strongest sign of change is not emotion. Sometimes the strongest sign of change is restraint. Sources within royal analysis circles suggest that Prince Harry entered this phase of communication with a very different mindset from the man the world saw in interviews, documentaries, and public disputes, because the Prince Harry now being discussed behind closed doors is reportedly quieter, more reflective, and increasingly aware that personal freedom without institutional grounding can eventually create its own form of isolation. For a man who once believed distance would bring clarity, the possibility that Prince Harry may now be searching for connection creates one of the most compelling reversals in modern royal storytelling. And if Prince Harry truly has reached that realization, what does that say about everything that came before? At the center of this emotional and strategic turning point remains Prince William, because Prince William, the future king, is uniquely positioned to understand both the personal pain and constitutional consequences surrounding Prince Harry's journey. Prince William shared the same childhood, endured the same global spotlight, and walked through the same grief after the loss of Diana, Princess of Wales. Yet Prince William chose a path of institutional discipline, long-term responsibility, and quiet preparation for the crown. That contrast now feels more important than ever. So let me ask you this, was Prince William simply more prepared? Or did Prince William see dangers that Prince Harry refused to recognize? At the same time, the stabilizing influence of Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues shaping public perception, because Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become one of the most trusted figures in the royal family, not through dramatic headlines, but through consistency, composure, and unwavering public duty. Every appearance by Kate Middleton beside Prince William reinforces the image of a monarchy that survives uncertainty through discipline rather than reaction. And in moments like these, public trust often becomes one of the most powerful currencies in the world. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the role of Meghan Markle remains central to every discussion surrounding the Sussex chapter, because Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, remains deeply connected to the choices, opportunities, controversies, and transformations that reshaped Prince Harry's life after 2017. Yet as public analysts examine recent patterns, one detail continues drawing attention: the growing difference between Meghan Markle's visible public trajectory and Prince Harry's increasingly private, introspective positioning. And when two public figures who built a brand around unity begin moving through separate emotional realities, audiences inevitably begin asking difficult questions. At the heart of this entire story stands King Charles III, a monarch whose reign is now defined not only by succession, duty, and national symbolism, but by one of the most emotionally complex family dynamics in modern royal history. King Charles III now carries a burden few leaders ever experience, because every private decision involving Prince Harry affects not only a father's heart, but also the credibility of an institution watched by millions across the world. If Prince Harry seeks understanding, if Prince William seeks stability, and if the monarchy seeks continuity, then King Charles III becomes the bridge connecting all three. Royal commentators now believe that what happens next may define not just the next chapter of Prince Harry's life, but the long-term emotional identity of the monarchy itself, because if Prince Harry truly begins rebuilding trust with Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and if Prince Harry quietly restores communication with King Charles III, then history may eventually remember this moment not as the collapse of the Sussex era, but as the beginning of something far more unexpected: the return of accountability. And yet, nothing has officially been confirmed. No palace statement, no public photograph, no carefully scripted media appearance. Only silence, timing, absence, movement, and the growing belief that behind some of the most heavily guarded doors in Britain, conversations may already be shaping the next generation of royal history. And sometimes silence tells the biggest story of all. So now I want to ask you directly, if Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, truly reaches across that distance, if Prince William, the future king, chooses understanding over resentment, and if King Charles III chooses legacy over division, could the royal family write one of the greatest comeback stories in modern history, or has too much already been lost? Because one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This story was never only about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Prince William, or even King Charles III. This story has always been about identity, duty, family, and the extraordinary weight carried by those born inside the monarchy. And perhaps the biggest chapter has not already happened. Perhaps the biggest chapter is only beginning. If you enjoyed this deep royal analysis involving Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more high-level royal investigations, and tell us in the comments, if Prince Harry called Prince William today, would Prince William answer?